In rural Tennessee, a man dies in a fiery car crash.
It just ignited. Shaboom.
The body's just burnt beyond recognition.
A week later, his family starts getting phone calls from the grave.
That's not possible. We buried the man.
Then, another man is missing.
Charlie was dead. I knowed it.
Police think there's a connection.
We was all out to have a good time.
What really happened that fatal night? December 15th, 1998, in northeastern Tennessee. It's a cold, crisp night. Suddenly, along a winding country road, a car crashes over an embankment. It explodes into a ball of fire. Trooper David Garrison arrives at the scene.
I arrived there, it was around 9:15. Arrived to a car still smoldering with the fire and rescue crew, trying to get it extinguished.
The fire is so intense that the driver doesn't stand a chance.
The body's just burnt beyond recognition. It's just a big ash. I mean, it's just black, charred. I have seen bodies like that before from where I was in the military, Desert Storm, bodies burnt from bombs. But that was the bodies I seen over there were pretty much intact, but that one, it was just a torso, basically.
Garrison sifts through the wreckage looking for some identification, but everything had burned. Even the license plate is charred.
As you can tell, there is nothing to tell me what state, nothing. All I had was these 4 numbers.
He runs a computer search on the numbers to try to identify the vehicle. There are 3 possibilities.
One was a Ford Explorer out of Georgia. I can't exactly recall what the other 2 were, but it was totally different from what the vehicle. I knew I had a Ford Tempo or Taurus, and I said none of those match up.
So Garrison calls in a criminal investigator. He dismantles the car to find the vehicle identification number, which is hidden inside the car. Once they find the VIN number, they run a second computer search. This time, a Ford Tempo registered to a disabled veteran turns up.
There was supposed to be a disabled veteran sticker right in this area. Of course, with the intense heat of the fire, it melted.
The car belongs to a Joseph Pruitt from Stinking Creek, Tennessee. It's a quiet hamlet, located about 10 miles down the road from the scene of the accident. Pruitt is known as a popular high school teacher and basketball coach, and a decorated Vietnam veteran.
So it's starting to come together. This is Joe Pruitt. It's his car. This is a route he has to take to go home.
But just because Pruitt owns the car doesn't mean he was the person driving it that night. However, his wife believes he was.
She had told me he had a VA appointment in Lexington at the Veterans Hospital. She said, yeah, he had had that day and had not returned home.
Joe suffered from post-traumatic stress syndrome. It's what the VA treated him for. So we left at 6 that morning, and he didn't come back.
When police tell his wife, Marie, her husband is dead, she is overcome with grief.
He had said different times, that the worst way that he could think he would to die would be to burn, and then this is what happens to him. And we were kind of all remembered him saying that, and I just couldn't believe it. The kids were devastated, It was right before Christmas, and then they didn't want any presents or anything,
Marie and her 2 young sons, Joseph and Jared, grapple with the death of their father. Meanwhile, police are troubled by the circumstances of the accident.
We looked at the position of where the car had hit the tree and realized that if the car had actually been driven along the highway at highway speed, it would have hit way up and would have probably gone to the river.
I mean, it's just a car over the bank, like it was just placed there with a helicopter. I just felt there was something not right. I'm out in the roadway here, and I'm looking for, like I say again, was skid marks, anything of that nature. Went for quite some distance around the curve, could find nothing.
As soon as I saw the car, I knew that it wasn't just an ordinary wreck. The doors on the car were blown out. In a normal car fire, everything melts in. You don't have force blowing things out.
The medical examiner is called in, but has little to go on.
We didn't have any fingerprints that we could work from. The hands were burned to the extent, charred to the extent that fingerprints would be impossible. I did the autopsy on what was left of the organs in the trunk, and then I attempted to reconstruct the length of the body by the bones that were in the body bag, and it was approximately the height of the man who was described to me as Pruitt.
Dr. Blake has no reason to believe the body is anyone other than Joseph Pruitt. So he releases the body to the family, and the police close the case. On December 20th, 5 days after the crash, Pruitt is laid to rest. The little country church, where he'd been an active member, is crowded with family and friends. In his will, Pruitt had requested that his good friend, Pastor Jay Huddleston, perform the church services.
Joseph Pruitt was a very nice guy. He was good to be around. He's always friendly and helpful in most any way you'd ask him to be. He opened up our Sunday school a lot of times with Bible reading.
I was grieving. It's kind of like a bad dream and you want to wake up, you know.
Then, a week after the burial, several family members begin receiving eerie phone calls, which made them wonder if their beloved Pruitt was really dead. That's next. 2 months before the deadly car crash, 47-year-old Joseph Pruitt confided some devastating news to select family members and friends.
As we talked, he began to tell me that he'd been to a doctor at the VA hospital in Kentucky, and they had told him that he had a brain tumor and had less than a year to live. He told me he didn't want me to discuss it with anybody. He said, I don't want people to feel sorry for me.
Oddly enough, Pruitt's wife Marie says Joe never told her about the brain tumor, but he did reach out to his 20-year-old son, Jody, from a previous marriage. Before Pruitt died, he asked Jody to oversee his will and distribute his insurance policies. The will states that in the event of Pruitt's death, an attorney named Taylor Davis will notify Jody and give him further instructions. A week after the tragic car accident, Jody receives a call from Taylor Davis. He is stunned when he hears the man's voice. He is sure it's his father. Jody immediately calls the authorities.
The day that he got the first phone call, he was shook so bad that he just about passed out.
This is what he told police.
As soon as he spoke one word, as soon as he said something, I knew it was him. There was no questions, no ifs, ands, buts, nothing.
Could Pruitt really be alive?
Lots of times, it's hard for a family to come to grips with the fact that they've lost a loved one. If you can't look at them and see them laying there dead as they lived, it's hard for you to accept the fact that they're gone.
Still, the police aren't taking any chances. Detectives immediately reopen the investigation. What they discover about this model citizen surprises them.
Joe Pruitt was pretty much a con man all his life. It seemed like that whatever he had was never enough. He always wanted more.
His friend, Bobby Canada, says he got what he wanted by using his charm.
He was real suave and real debonair, the way he talked. He was just, he was real friendly, a guy you could like easy.
He was a person who, as we say in the mountains, took on airs and wanted to have a status in the community and presented himself as being a person of status and professionalism.
It turns out that Pruitt's teaching certificate was falsified. It states that he had graduated from a local college,
He just put in courses for each semester and gave himself grades, and with Xerox machines and copiers, he was able to make it look similar.